Okay, so this is the review. Um, Again, this will just be posted as a video link. So first thing to think about, these first 5 questions will be on ethics. So there's a stakeholder view of corporate social responsibility. It says the most difficult aspect of the stakeholder analysis faced by a company is determining. So when you think about what it is that a company has to look at when they are making a decision that will have effect on the community, who are the stakeholders and what is each of their uh, stakes or concerns, and can they all be addressed? Or as we say, right now we have this campaign going on called Students First at Chaminade, and I've told people, well, look, this is a prioritization. So if students are first, then everybody else is second, third, fourth, fifth. And this is something that we just have to understand. So we have to order this in a way that we know which constituencies have the greatest concern or are going to get the most attention when the decision is made as to whether or not it would be in their best interest or not. It's not necessarily about making profit anymore. Then we now look at this idea of ethical standards. So what would you consider when dealing with a company in a developing nation? Clearly, they're at a disadvantage. They will have less bargaining power. They will probably be able to get much better prices, but is that at the cost of workers' rights or human rights? So many things to look at. It's not just a matter of what is the company that's going to give you the best price, and if they're the cheapest, then clearly we should just go with them because it'll maximize our profits. But again, think about what effect it's going to have, not just on your bottom line, but on the triple bottom line of the people involved, the planet, as well as the profits. Here, a construction company makes a payment to someone in India, and is this permitted? Well, things are not all yes or no in the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. You have to take a look at the side payment. And notice it doesn't say how much it is. And the government official. Notice it doesn't say what level the government official works at. Is this just the clerk, or is this that someone is basically processing something for you? Or is this an elected or appointed official who is in power and has the ability to do many things favorable for your business if you do some kind of payment on their behalf? What is allowed under the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and what isn't? Here we have a sales manager for a store and ethical principles to business of the firm. What are they most likely to evaluate? And we want to take a look at what kind of things can go on in any kind of situation where you have somebody that's buying something from somebody else. Are they just dealing with the person who has the superior product and service, or are they looking at someone who is a friend of the company, a friend of the individual? Are they looking for short-run profits, long-run profits? What is it that they should look at? Should they look at things that are beyond the current legal and ethical scope of things? So this is something that you will face and you will have to deal with. Here we have a security firm that provides security services, and let's say that they are actually providing physical, personal security. Questions of what is ethical involve the extent to which corporate security has, well, You got to look at how well you've screened your people, how well you've trained your people. Do you hire them just because you can't hire anybody else? And, do you put them in the field with little or no training or experience? These are the kind of things that you should be looking at in these kinds of situations. And then as to matters that we talked about in the first session, which deal with law, the first one in making and marketing tools and other do-it-yourself home maintenance products, Do It Right Corporation, like other sellers, is required to take precautions against. So what is their responsibility? What is their duty to their customers and to people who may be using their product? What kinds of scenarios are likely? What kind of scenarios are improbable? And if the scenarios are likely, then do you take precautions in addition to just making a good product? So let's say I've always talked about ladders. Half of the cost of a ladder is in getting insurance because people fall off of ladders, and they fall off for many different reasons. And how much of that is your responsibility? So the design of the ladder, uh, I would think that perhaps like the straight ladder, the one that has just, it's just one side, is not the folding kind of ladder. So it's got to be based and secured against both the wall and or structure and the ground. And usually you should have someone there to brace it, but many times people use it without anyone's assistance. So you have to wonder if that's something that you have to be aware of and whether you have any responsibility to that purchaser. But it involves legal duties. So here we have after a dinner at Rosario's Italian eatery, Stephanie believes she was overcharged and shoves Tom, the waiter. Tom sues Stephanie, alleging that the shove was a battery. Now, of course, you'd have to find someplace where you could define battery, and it is intentional, and it is something that causes offense or harm to another. It doesn't have to be purely harmful, but it does at some point in time become just a matter of uh, offensiveness, or perhaps even something that might lead to a loss of reputation. Look at these different factors and try to figure out what Stephanie may be liable for. There might have been another patron there who, without consent, videoed the scene and makes one of them look totally bad and the other one look totally wimpy, and that could have an effect on both of them. So what is Stephanie's responsibility, and why, or is there anything that would justify what she did? Here we have Waste Management Corporation enters into contracts for its services online. Waste Management can protect itself against disputes involving these contracts by making important terms. And what do you do with any kind of important terms? I think you want to clearly express them, right? Think about whether or not they should or need to be in writing. Do they have to be in writing? Or is it just a good business practice for it to be in writing? Take a look at these things, because once you get a deal, you want to make sure that the deal is honored, because you might get a very good result and you don't want to lose that, because there are things that somebody could later say, well, you never really said that we were going to do this, this, or this. And if you did negotiate for that, then you should have put it down into the terms of the agreement, and by that you would have a better contract. So this is a fairly typical situation where someone says that they are something, and whether they are or they are not, what is their duty as far as the performance to a principal if they are hired to do something or they're contracted to do something? What is the degree of skill that's going to be expected? So once you say you are, then really what it comes down to is a matter of walking the talk and what kind of things should be looked for in that particular type of situation. And finally, it says Dana is a member of Earthground Coffee LLC, a limited liability company. Dana is liable for Earthground's debts. And let's presume that this LLC is a limited liability company, and it's treated like a corporation for purposes of liability, and it's treated like a proprietorship for purposes or partnership for purposes of taxation. So as far as a liability is concerned, what concept is that would be looked at and would be looked upon by both creditors and Dana as the debtor in the event that Earthground has debts that it might not be able to pay. So let's take a look at, you can take a look at that and derive an answer. So these are the things that you will be asked to look at. And then I'll switch this, and then again, for one more time, you have to look at me, which you probably don't want to do anymore. But this is the review, or this was the review for the material that you will be asked to be able to deal with, or in other words, the quiz for this week. So good luck, and I don't know if I'll ever see any of you, but if I do, this is kind of the style that I do it. If you do it in an online scenario, I don't. I have my biases about online education, and I kind of manifest them quite frequently. So when I do online classes, understand that there'll be a lot of these types of Zoom videos. There will also be some requirement for synchronous chat sessions. There will also be requirements for people who absolutely cannot do a synchronous chat session to post videos of themselves. And by the way, I've seen some of the videos that have been posted as projects, and they're good. But one of the things that I will tell you is that when I do a class, when you do a video, whether it's real time or uh, recorded and played back later, I do require that you have your camera on and people can see you, right? Most of the time, I just see the silhouette character, which indicates that the camera is not on. I will say that when you do a class with me, that camera, when you are speaking, always has to be on so that people can get used to both presenting themselves in that fashion, especially if they want to do things asynchronous, and also for the benefit of uh, people like myself who may be doing grading to see what you look like during your presentation, the confidence that you project, and the material that you use. And I see that primarily through the types of facial gestures. Can't say that that's body language, but it is facial gestures in many ways. So I will be looking for that. And in the event that you are um, taking an online class from me in the future, understand that that's going to be how I will require things to be done. But in the meantime, good luck to you. I would imagine most of you will do well in this class. And I applaud your efforts and I encourage you to continue them. So take care.